And welcome back to Top Story. Earlier, just before I got into the studio this morning, I was reading a story about a woman who was taken out of Windsor, moved to Winnipeg, and the man who did that then raped her daily and as well sold her on interlined sex lines and made money from her. So it's hard to believe that this day and age, really, that you would have to have anti-human trafficking conferences here in Canada. But obviously, the situation is a real one. So here to talk to us about a conference that's taking place here in Sault Ste. Marie the next couple of days and a walk on Saturday is Marley Day. Marley, good to see you. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good, good. Now tell me about Pact Grandmothers. What's that?
Okay, Pact Grandmothers is, that stands for Persons Against Crime and Human Trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from Ottawa. So we are members of Pact Ottawa. And right now, this morning, Dr. Sheila Smith, that was a co-founder from Pact Ottawa. She now works in at the United Nations. She presented at the international level.
My goodness.
So
there's a get for you guys. That's awesome. She must be
Yeah.
so interesting to hear.
Yeah, she is. She did the stats and this morning on the global level, and they are just alarming.
Now, what prompted you to get involved?
Well, I was called about, it's going to be 4 years in February that the group started, where we were a group of 12 grandmothers, Indigenous grandmothers, and I was called out to come and do some training on human trafficking. And since then, our group has reduced our group of grandmothers. The other grandmothers had to go on, but there's like four of us grandmothers that are left, 4 active grandmothers. All the other ones are still involved, but they're inactive.
Right, right. So when you say active, what is it? What are some of the things that you do?
Well, I go into where I'm called in to do education presentations, and we have 2 grandmothers in Wikwemikong that are active, and they do it like at that end, and grandmother Isabel Miwaski and we do it at this end. So I also work with the Women's Coalition Group. And
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sometimes I'm called into the schools, and so we do education and
Information, making sure everybody understands it's an issue.
Yeah, it's a major issue because because of all the residential school effects, the trauma that people are still affected by the trauma.
Right.
So our Aboriginal girls are vulnerable, and it's those recruiters know what to look for.
Now, when you were training, what sort of things did they teach you? Did they teach you specifically about the issue or about presenting or all of that?
Well, the issues were a big thing to go out there and present. But when the grandmothers got together, we did it like in a cultural base.
Oh, yes, I see.
Actually, we have a manual that's all culturally based that we go out there. I kind of do my presentations different because I have I form a circle, and we have like the medicines, and after we present, everyone gets an opportunity to speak.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a pretty heavy topic.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that are affected. And like here in Sault Ste. Marie, and when we hold those circles with the medicines, everyone gets the opportunity to speak, and there's a lot of emotions that come out.
Now, when you talk about human trafficking, I think that a lot of folks who are watching this morning don't understand that it's such a big issue.
It is a major issue, like right here in Sault Ste. Marie.
Now, when you talk about human trafficking, define that for us. Does it go from somebody who's held against their will, or somebody who's guided to prostitution?
Yeah, it's somebody that's forced against selling sex against their will. What happens is they lure the women with gifts, and there's a lot of young girls out there that are just so, they're everything's so attractive to them.
Sure, and they're lost a little bit sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of our girls are missing, like, in spirit.
Ah.
Yeah. And so the grandmothers are, we try to recapture that spirit back in holding ceremonies for them.
I think it's so amazing that you go back to your traditions and what it is you do, because I know, for instance, as grandmothers, as elders,
Right.
you're held in high esteem in the Native community. It must hurt you deeply to see that kids are so hollow.
Yeah. It's different nowadays. And, trying to get, like I work with young women and try to get them on the right path is very difficult, especially there's peer pressure out there.
Yeah. Do you think that social media has a role to play in this situation?
Oh, big time, because, it's so free out there. And there's a lot of girls that are lured on social media.
And girls are all on social media constantly, right?
Yeah, it's just not girls, but
Right.
they have videos out there like how to traffic women.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
They do. Yeah, on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah, and the recruiters, they're just right across the nation. They have designated areas, and they have from Toronto to Sudbury, from Sudbury to Sault Ste. Marie. They have all right across the nation. They have all their local districts.
So they have their districts, their regions. That's so scary. It sounds so organized, doesn't it?
Well, Sheila Smith, Dr. Sheila Smith, she was just talking today, but it's not so organized because sometimes it even happens in our families.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now tell me about numbers. You mentioned Sault Ste. Marie. Without being, I don't need to know, if there's 5 or 6 or 105 or 6, but, is the number surprising to you?
It's alarming.
Is it?
Yeah.
So how big is it about?
I'm not really sure about the stats, but I have a page on Facebook, and I get a lot of people, talking. They personally message me, and there are businesses here that in hotels that these girls are trafficked in, and they hang out at local coffee shops, and they're in our First Nation communities, and just locally, and.
Why do you think it's such a rampant issue? Aside from the school situation and the history behind all of that and the trauma that caused, why don't we see it? It's right under our nose.
Because it's invisible. You have to know what to look for to see it. I could see it.
Can you?
I could
You
see
can tell.
it because I'm trained. But for somebody that isn't trained in human trafficking, it's very hard to
If there's ever a moment where we're in a coffee shop, we're hanging out at Tim Hortons, having a coffee, and we see a child, a person who we think is, even if we don't know the particular situation, but we think is under duress, is there something that we can do? Do we approach that person?
If you can get that person like
On their own?
on their own,
Right.
yeah, maybe you could approach her. Like I make a lot of, sometimes I make like report to police, to the police. Like if I'm suspicious,
Right.
I'll make a report.
And then they'll
I've-
follow through for
Yeah,
you.
I've done that in the past.
That's good to know. That's awesome. What's happening at the conference starts today
Yeah.
and goes until tomorrow. What's the focus? Education mainly?
It's like we have like different guest speakers. We have 2 speakers that were trafficked, and there's yeah, like there's education people that are coming in, and just yeah, it's all about stats and
Because you're so awesome as a grandmother to help these people, how do you keep yourself healthy? How do you not, I'm just trying to picture helping one person and not getting personally involved. How do you protect yourself? How do you stay healthy?
through tradition. I'm a very ceremonial person, so like you know, like and my grandmother Isabel Miwasaki, like we work in really good partnership, and you know, like when I need.
Grandmas should be, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to help, how can they do that?
I think the key is like education, and we all need to be educated in human trafficking, and you know, because we need that knowledge to understand like what's really happening here locally, and like on the national level and the international level.
That sounds awesome. There's a walk on Saturday.
Yes.
Where is it and can anybody go?
Yeah, it's open to the public, and anybody's welcome to come on the walk.
When is it and where?
It's on Saturday, and it starts, I think, about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're walking to the bridge,
Okay.
and then we're walking back to the
Pavilion?
Delta. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was awfully good of you to come in. I know you're at the conference and you're busy today.
Yes.
I appreciate it. It was lovely meeting you, Marley.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're
Be
going to take
blessed.
this break on Top Story. We'll have more news coming up.